Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're checking out the story of Carry On Wayward Son is more upsetting than you thought.
Carry On Wayward Son is one of those songs that always gives me goosebumps. That a cappella intro gets me every single time. Carry on my wayward son. But did you know that while the track arguably made Kansas commercially, it also all but destroyed them? Let's start this story in 1976.
Hang on. 76. What a year. I didn't realize it was Kansas. Before I started filming, I was trying to think, who did this song? I know it wasn't Boston. I know it wasn't Yes. I know it wasn't Chicago, definitely. It was, but that style with all those harmonies, I should have known it was Kansas. I feel shame. Be sure to go to Music Mongoose and like and subscribe. And maybe pick up a mug. I've heard this song. It's classic on classic radio. I can't imagine what the story is. Let's start this story in 1976.
Kansas, by this point, had released 3 well-received albums. They had toured with some of the most successful bands of the time, including Fleetwood Mac. However, some bands saw them as too good to be an opening act, but they hadn't had enough commercial success at this stage to do their own tours on that level. It was a frustrating time. Having opened for just about every group you could possibly name, we had become such a hot property that nobody would play with us anymore.
So they didn't want to get booed off the stage after playing to them, or after them. You know what I mean? This is a very common but untalked about thing in the music industry. Also in stand-up comedy. Like, it's really weird trying to choose who your opener is going to be and to try to get onto the bill with a big band. I don't know if it's how it was in 1976, but I know in at least the 90s through now, or I mean, maybe not now, but the 90s through the early 2000s, a lot of opening bands pay the main band to be their opening act. So, like, I remember one deal, I'm not going to say who it was, but this opening band who, like, they had basically no following. And this bigger band who had a pretty good following in the niche of that music that they were doing, the opening band paid them $30,000 to open for them during this European tour. I think a lot of people are under the assumption that the main band picks this band to be their opener because they believe in them and they want, you know, their friends maybe, they feel a mentorship relationship with them or whatever. But no, it's all about money. Give us that money. But also, they don't want to get booed off the stage after playing with you, you know? The show has to go like this, right? And if the show goes, people leave. And whose merch do they buy? Whose CD do they buy? Well, not CDs anymore. CD. Back to the video. Be sure to go to Music Mongoose and like and subscribe.
For instance, Mick Fleetwood later told me that Fleetwood Mac died a death every time we went on first. We were a hard act to follow. Kansas had the makings of a superstar band. The only thing they were missing was a killer single that would get loads of radio airplay and get them out of this weird limbo between support act and headline act. The band were about to start writing for their 4th album when the pressure really started to build. Don Kirshner, the music mogul who had taken a chance in signing Kansas when no one else would.
Why did that name spark an emotional response from me? Why do I have butt pucker syndrome when I hear his name? American music publisher, music consultant, rock music producer, talent manager, and songwriter dubbed the man with the golden ear. Maybe that's why. By Time Magazine. Carole King, Neil Diamond, Paul Simon, Phil Spector, Howard Green, I don't know who that is, Tony Orlando. As a producer-promoter, Kirshner was instrumental in launching the careers of singers and songwriters, including Bobby Darin, Tony Orlando, Neil Diamond, Carole King, and some others. That's not why, though. There's something else. The Monkees, maybe? Is he a big part of the story of the Monkees? I don't really know much about the Monkees, the Archies. Maybe I've just heard his name a billion times. ABC. I don't know why I've heard of him so much. Maybe it's just one of those names you run into all the time in these videos. I don't know. He looks familiar too.
The music mogul
do I
who
know
had
him
taken
from?
a chance in signing Kansas when no one else would, made it clear to them that this was their final chance to really take off, or they would be dropped from the label. So, no pressure. Kirshner himself had always been very supportive of the band and loved their music, but he was forced to look at it from a business perspective in this case. And if the band weren't successful commercially, quite frankly, they wouldn't make the label enough money.
Honestly, 4 albums in, making that decision is a luxury now. Now, if the first album doesn't sell, you're dropped. You're either dropped or they lead you on and make you think you're making another album, but then when you're done with that album, they take it and they put it on the shelf. They don't put it out. It's not worth it.
With that message received, the band returned to their hometown to start writing their new album. It wasn't smooth sailing to begin with. Steve Walsh, one of the band's songwriters, began to suffer from writer's block. It seemed that for Walsh, the well had just run dry, much to Kerry Livgren's frustration. Back then, I wrote maybe 70% of each album, with Steve supplying the rest, and on the very first day of rehearsals, Steve came to me and said that he had nothing, not a single song. I don't relish that kind of pressure, but with hindsight, it really brought out the best in me. There became a pattern.
Oh my God. All that pressure for a 4th album. All that pressure from Don. Don squashed his creativity out, but I guess it made this other guy work harder. I'm sorry, what was his name? Kerry. His name's Kerry. Okay.
70% of each album, with Steve supplying the rest. And on the very first day of rehearsals, Steve came to me and said that he had nothing, not a single song. I don't relish that kind of pressure, but with hindsight, it really brought out the best in me. There became a pattern in how the album developed. Livgren would go home each evening and write, and then in rehearsals the next day, the rest of the band would learn the new song and perfect it, and then rinse and repeat. The band were impressed with Livgren's compositions, and the excitement for the new album began to build. However, they still hadn't found that radio-friendly single that was going to propel them back into Don Kirshner's good books. Eventually, the band had thrown together enough songs for the album, but Livgren's songwriting genius struck one more time. One last-minute addition was about to change everything for Kansas. The night before they were due to start rehearsing the finished album, Livgren had written a song called Carry On Wayward Son. The songwriting process had been easy for this one. I sat down with a guitar and out it came. One note led to the next note. It just had a magical feel about it. I've never known how this happens. It just beams in. As soon as the rest of the band heard...
I love hearing that. That's how the best ones happen, y'all. I recently saw a really great video about creativity and how it's not about going for quality, it's about quantity. And then you pick out the quality ones. Like you gotta just do it a whole bunch, and every once in a while you'll get a really good one. It's like fishing. It's not like thinking about it and putting in all your talents and everything you know about music into writing this one song. That's I bet also for Kerry here, Livgren, he had been writing a song every night and then having it rehearsed the next day. That's kind of like get that muscle strengthening up too, you know? Like he's in the groove of not judging it and letting it come out. Also with a little bit of pressure, like there's a reason for it, which is kind of cool. Spirits just beamed it in on him. Or what? Maybe it's Jesus or Satan.
I've never known how this happens. It just beams in. As soon as the rest of the band heard the song, they knew it was special. It had that little bit of something that might just save their careers. The track starts, of course, with that a cappella chorus, which immediately grabs your attention. The harmonies seem to scratch an itch that nobody realised they had. There'll be peace when you are done. By the way, I can only play tiny amounts of music in these videos because of YouTube's copyright robots, but overall...
I'm surprised he got away with that much.
I can only play tiny amounts of music in these videos because of YouTube's copyright robots, but over on my Patreon page I upload special versions of all of my videos with much more of the music for a much better experience. It's patreon.com/musicmongoose.
Nice.
Anyway, after the intro, the song then launches into that insanely catchy guitar riff. And the lyrics speak about being under pressure. reflecting the situation the band were in at the time of writing it.
Meta, this is great. I wonder if they were doing that on purpose or if it was subconscious.
Lines like, "I was soaring ever higher, but I flew too high," shows how Livgren was proud of the band's success so far, but was concerned they were about to lose it all. And it's absolutely no surprise that it did as well as it went on to do. It became a huge hit, and they were finally getting that airplay on the radio. Backing up slightly though, eager to let Don Kirshner know about what they had just created, the band gave him a call once they had finished recording the track, and he instantly loved the song. The band had been saved by Carry On Wayward Son. Exactly what happened that night when Livgren wrote the song remains a bit of a debate. While some might assume Livgren just worked particularly well under pressure, he himself saw the creation of this song as divine intervention.
I believe in that. I believe that could happen, y'all. I believe that could happen. They're watching us right now. They're watching us. They're watching you. They are in your room right now, watching you, helping you. Most of the time, hopefully, but also with you. And sometimes giving you a song. It's kind of cool. Thank you for Carry On My Wayward Son. Thank you.
Had strong religious beliefs, and Livgren saw this song as the ultimate journey, religious beliefs, and lived divine intervention. The group had always had strong religious beliefs, and Livgren saw this song as the ultimate journey of looking for truth and meaning. It's an autobiographical song. Parallel to my musical career, I've always been on a spiritual sojourn, looking for truth and meaning. It was a song of self-encouragement. I was telling myself to keep on looking, and I would find what I sought.
Whoa, y'all. That's so cool. Wow. That's amazing. What's also kind of amazing is I was just reading a book about this earlier today. It's called The Spirits something. I saw a video about it, so there's a PDF you can download. It's about this guy in the 1800s who, like, seances were really popular back then, and he was like, I'm going to test this out. So he went to a bunch of different mediums, and he asked the spirits questions, and a lot of them had very similar answers, and he wrote a book with all that in it. And it's called Spirits Book by Alan Kardec, ALLANKARDEC, and it's basically an interview with, like, these spirits, and it's all conglomerated into the answers, and very interesting. Very interesting. But it's weird that I was just reading about that this morning, and then this is here we are. They're in your room.
And you can't really blame him for thinking that. The song had seemed to come out of nowhere. Carry On Wayward Son peaked at number 11 in the US, which in turn propelled the album, Left Overture, to number 5 in the Billboard Hot 100.
That's
the band
good.
had never experienced this kind of commercial success before. Their label decided to continue with them, and it seemed like they were on track to have a long, successful career. However, in reality, things weren't so rosy. In the process of creating their follow-up album, Point of No Return, Walsh found his way out of his writer's block. He ended up writing the majority of the album, which actually peaked at a higher place than Left Overture. It was Livgren, though, who had written the most successful track on the album, Dust in the Wind.
Dust in the wind. Oh my God. And those lyrics, all we are is dust in the wind. Wow. I thought Dust in the Wind was written in the 60s. It seems like one of those songs, doesn't it? I'm surprised. I think it's funny that that fifth album was called Point of No Return. The album cover was, what is it? There, it's a ship on a way, like, it's out in the universe. Yeah, that's not hopeful, right? I guess that's what they were living through at that time. The evil spirits got to him.
Follow-up album, writing the majority of the album, which actually peaked at a higher place than Left Overture. It was Livgren, though, who had written the most successful track on the album, Dust in the Wind. Dust in the wind. And unfortunately, jealousy was beginning to build behind the scenes as the writers of these massive hits began to receive massive paychecks. Having your name in the songwriting credits of a successful song meant you got royalties for it.
Yeah, y'all. This situation is as old as bands and copyright law. Because if you're in a band, say with 5 people, and one guy writes the song, that one guy gets the money for the royalties. The other guys get whatever the record label might give them from an advance, and then they get paid for live shows. Maybe a little bit for the record sales, but when you get those royalties, that's the real money. That's the rock star money. So if there's this one guy in the band getting all the rock star money, and the other guys in the band are getting middle class money, that creates resentment. The only way around it is to give writing credit to everybody in the band. You gotta not be selfish. You gotta help your brother. Get everybody paid. That's the test of that, right? Otherwise, if you want this band to keep going, it's not gonna. It's not gonna if one guy's making all the money. Resentment. It's almost like a law of nature. Human nature. I like that. Just made that. Share the royalties.
The rest of the band, such as guitarist Rich Williams, didn't get these financial bonuses. Instead, they had to make their money from touring. When the writers suddenly receive very large checks indeed, it breeds some animosity. Some of us found that situation tough. Certain people also started saying, I don't want to work as hard or travel as much. I'd say that's because you've got yours.
Right.
Let me get mine. Money.
So the guys who are making the money from the songwriting, they're like, I don't want to tour anymore. I want to sit at home and write songs. That's where the money is. And these other guys are like, hey, well, the money changes everything.
It changes everything. On top of this, Livgren had become increasingly involved with his faith, leading to his and Dave Hope's exit from the band in 1983. Livgren felt that the band's artistic direction had become a bit stagnant, and himself wanted to focus on Christian-focused music and explore different musical approaches. Him and Hope formed the Christian rock band AD, with Warren Ham and Michael Gleason.
I didn't know that. I never heard of that band. I'm not really into Christian music, though. That's quite a move. He got his nut, and he went to church.
Christian-focused music and explored different musical approaches. Him and Hope formed the Christian rock band AD, with Warren Ham and Michael Gleason. Livgren went on to make guest appearances for Kansas after this, his last recorded work with them being the 2000 album Somewhere to Elsewhere. Despite the band looking different, the legacy of Carry On Wayward Son lives on. In 1995, almost 20 years after it was released, it was the most played song on US classic rock radio. Wow. It's also appeared in some comedy shows and films including South Park and Anchorman and Happy Gilmore. And Kansas to this day still tour, although without Livgren. They still enjoy playing Carry On Wayward Son live after all these years.
They're still out there working, y'all.
You know we got one more song to play. You know what it is? Let me hear you sing it with me now. Carry on my wayward son.
When that a cappella vocal intro kicks in, there isn't an audience in the world that doesn't go crazy. It's inspirational for the fans and for us too. A few years before, Lynyrd Skynyrd had a similar experience with one of their songs that went on to be a total classic, Freebird. I've made a video about that song too. Check it out over here next.
Oh, I gotta watch that. I like some Lynyrd Skynyrd. Y'all, I met Lynyrd Skynyrd, the PE coach who they named the band after, and he was very kind. I wasn't his student, though. You know, when I was in college, I was in the Florida State Marching Band, known as the Marching Chiefs, and the trombone section used to play this. And I wonder if there's a video of it. Oh, look at that. Wow, that was 2025. They're still playing it. I like this song even more, y'all. Y'all be sure to go to Music Mongoose and like and subscribe. I'd like to thank my patrons. I'd like to thank my Buy Me a Coffee folks. Thank y'all for watching this with me, and I'll see y'all next time. Carry on. Sorry.